Welcome to our Road to Uni episode 3. Today, the topic will be medicine. And then before we get started, I will just go through a few slides and we'll wait for 1 minute more to see if anyone else is joining. So here we have Jerry and Yong. That's our poster. You have already seen it. And then the next slide, episode 3. Today, the topic will be medicine. And then before we get started, I will just go through a few slides and we'll wait for 1 minute more to see. Okay, so the next one is our QS mentorship or coaching program. You can see Yongfeng is our one of the mentors. And then for the previous 2 episodes, we've already had Alex and Shane. They talked about commerce. Also Cherry and Amy, they talk about computer science. Haley will be in our next Road to Uni talk. So this program is a free program providing to level 9 and level 10 above who is studying QS. And they don't provide like academic tutoring support, but in terms of non-academic like study methods, advice, and life and work balance, so things like that. And then the next one, yeah, it's just a timetable for our 2023 VCE courses. If you are interested in any of the subjects, feel free to contact VC admin. And yeah, here's the early bird offer. So if you enroll the full year, we get 15% off for the first subject, 20% off for the second, and 25% off for the third one. Yeah, if you're interested, just feel free to contact us. And the final slide before we begin is our next webinar. It's about VC accounting and economics. We will have our new teacher, Vivian, and she will walk us through the 2 subjects in VC, and it will be really interesting. So welcome to scan and register for the seminar. Yeah, I think that's it. So I can see more and more people are joining. So why don't we just get started? Hi, Yongho and Jerry. Welcome to our Road to Uni. So first of all, would you like to tell us more about yourself? For example, what VC subjects you did and your hobbies and anything you want to share with us. Shall we start with Yong?
Yeah. So hi everyone, I'm Yongfeng. I graduated from Melbourne High last year, and my VC subjects were all the sciences, so chemistry, physics, biology, and psychology. And then I also did methods and of course English. Yeah, my hobbies sort of outside of uni and studies, you'd probably find me at the gym pumping iron, or maybe enjoying some good food, or just hanging out with my friends. Yeah.
Good, interesting science subjects.
Yeah.
How about you, Jerry?
Hi, hello everyone. Good to see everyone here attending. So I'm Jerry. I'm currently a second year medical student at a University of Melbourne. And yeah, and outside of that, obviously I'm a teacher here at QS and also an honorary researcher at Peter Mac Cancer Centre, as well as at the Male Children's Research Centre. So I guess outside of that, for my before then, for my high school subjects, I did English literature. It's a long time ago, chemistry, biology, not physics. So we did the 2 maths, the methods, and also specialist maths. I did Chinese second language advanced, as well as the Monash Uni extension chemistry, which I'm not sure is still being offered. And I guess outside of work and studies, I'm also an avid food enthusiast. I love dogs and also love playing tennis as well.
Impressive. So you did like uni chemistry, but how did you apply to these subjects?
It was really convenient because I went to my high school actually offered us through kind of an outside of school hour program. So we had quite a lot of students coming from different schools coming to our school on a Thursday afternoon, where we just went through 2 hours of basically chemistry class. So it's quite convenient.
Right. So is it like harder than normal VC chemistry?
I actually found it used to complement the program really well, because it's a slight advancement to what a VC program offers, which means like you get to understand a bit more of the deeper knowledge. So it's a lot easier to study for the VC side of things. So it was at once enhancement, also so revision on the side as well, which is quite nice.
Okay, thank you. So I think you did 7 VC subjects.
That's correct.
Yeah. So we got a question from Cecilia. So here's your time. Cecilia asked, can students do 7 subjects? Yes, you can. And 7 exams in VCE, then choose the 6 subjects with better scores to count towards the final scores. Was that how you?
Pretty much, you got a spot on, Cecilia. So if you have lots of time to burn and lots of indecision on your mind, then definitely go for that subject. Yeah, so I think it really comes down to, do you really want to do all 7, right? So for me, I thought, I did 2 subjects in year 11, and I had a fair bit of time in year 12. And for uni chem, it's one of those subjects where you're not putting in an incredible amount of extra time and effort. So like I said, it complements the VC course really well. So I was able to slot it in really nice and easy, and really didn't take too much time away from the rest of my studying, because most of it was kind of maths and similar sciences. So they're kind of all around the same cognitive pattern, right? And then the only odd one now was really just English literature, which I loved. So I spent a lot of time on that. So yeah, just whatever works for you. That's the key.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question is, which university you're in and why did you choose it? I know you're in Monash, and Jerry is in Melbourne from undergrad to be.
That's right.
Yeah. So Yong, can you please share why did you choose Monash?
Yeah, so I'm currently a first-year student at Monash doing a Bachelor of Biomedical Sciences. And yeah, I think the reason I chose Monash is I feel like, well, first off, I want to be a doctor in the future. So, of course, the pathway after my undergrad would be to head into medicine, which is the most favorable sort of outcome, I think. And sort of the reason why I chose Monash was, first of all, it's sort of very, very close to where I live, and just like a 15-minute bus ride to campus every day, and don't really have to drive. But I guess the second more important reason was sort of Monash Biomed offers a guaranteed spot into postgrad Monash medicine, which is available for the top 10% of the students. And so, yeah, it was a very, very good incentive to sort of first, of course, choose Monash, and also a good motivation to get through the 3 years.
Study well and then get into the 10% and then straight.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Right. Wish you luck. Jerry, why did you choose Melbourne, and what's your journey to?
Yeah, so I'm glad kind of my answer is going to be slightly similar or slightly different to Yon's. So I'll start with the differences. So first of all, I do not live anywhere near Melbourne Uni. However, I think I chose Melbourne Uni partly because I think Melbourne Uni has a really strong research culture, and that's also the thing that really intrigued me from, I guess, a fairly young starting point. So, it's really close to like major research institutions in Melbourne. So you've got Peter Mac, you've got Murdoch Children's, Royal Children's, Peter Doherty, so on and so forth. People probably all heard about Doherty Institute during COVID anyway. So for me, that was a strong starting factor. But I guess similarly to Young, it's also the allure of a guaranteed pathway. So for me, I was lucky enough to get a chance of scholarship, so that made sure I had a guaranteed pathway into medicine. Not so much guaranteed, like guaranteed inverted commas. It meant I need to maintain a certain score, and as well as really all right. I'm adopting in 2 years' time, so see me then. No, so I've got it's a guaranteed pathway, and also it just gives me so much peace of mind going into the program, still being able to go on exchange, and just offering me a really well-rounded, holistic experience in uni, essentially.
Thank you. Next one is, what are the key differences between high school and uni? So as you are first-year uni students, what's your greatest shock or going to uni?
First of all, I think it's just a lot more freedom outside of school, but that also comes with a lot more self-directed learning. And I think the major difference, just in my opinion, is that the lecturers in uni, they've got so many students, right? The cohort of biomedical science is alone for the single degrees 550 students, and that's not even including the double degrees. And so the lecturers, there's no way, unless maybe you're completely outstanding, that the lecturers will even know your name, right? And I think in that instance, by extension, they won't really sort of care about if you perform well or not. It's more so keeping yourself accountable for your own learning. And also, the lectures that I watch are all online, and they're all pre-recorded.
Okay.
And so you don't even need to sort of attend uni most of the days. And only if maybe you have like a scheduled lab or you have a tutorial, you go. But all the content that you learn is by yourself. And I think that's the major difference is in school, your teacher almost holds your hand compared to what you get in uni. And yeah, that's just something that I think is the biggest difference.
Yeah, so you said your lectures are pre-recorded.
Yeah.
So all of them, you don't have the chance to actually go into a lecture?
So yeah, well, we've got tutorials that we go in person, we can ask the lecturer about whatever we have.
Yeah.
But other than that, with all the content throughout the whole semester, it's self-directed at your own pace.
Right. Jerry, how about you? So you in the med school already, so yeah. So what's the difference? High school, undergrad, and grad?
Yeah, so I think similar condolences for Young. So almost exclusively our lectures are pre-recorded, so nothing really live in person. Save a couple of tutorials, thanks to COVID. But I think transitioning from high school to uni, I guess three main things. I think there's so many, but maybe three important points. I think first is an idea of adaptability. So, unlike high school where everything was very pedagogical, you go to class, you attend class, you do the work and you do the assignments, go for exams, and that's it, right? Whereas in uni, there are so many subjects coming from different disciplines or different lecturers having completely different teaching styles. So it's going to be really adaptable on your feet, kind of, making sure you change your mode of learning according to the subject. Number two, which you already touched on, is self-motivation. There's no one to chase after you for like missing homework assignment, or no one reminding you, hey, you're going to prepare for an exam coming up, right? So everything's very much self-orientated. So you're going to have your own study plan. You're going to make sure you are on top of your game. And third, though, I think it's just liberating. Uni is a free space. Enjoy adult life. There's so many things you could do. For example, I was very privileged enough to go on a 4-month exchange to Montreal in Canada, where just some of the most glorious memories survive from uni. I managed squeezing just before COVID hit, so that was a good little farewell trip before COVID locked everything back down. So that's good.
Right, that's so interesting. So 4-month exchange to Montreal. Did you apply through Melbourne, or is that an exchange program provided by Melbourne, and which uni was that in?
Yeah, so it was, I'm happy to elaborate more if people are curious about it as well. So it was in Montreal, so I went to McGill University. So it's a program through Uni Melbourne, which actually kind of came through a Chancellor's Scholar program as well.
Wow.
So it's a separate kind of affiliated scholarship called Melbourne Global Scholars Award. So you can go on in overseas university of choice for a basic 1 semester. So I went to Montreal because I thought I wanted to learn some French. So I ended up, picking up a very bizarre accent that every French person can't quite put their finger on. But it was a really awesome experience. It was super, super cold. Like, for example, the day I left, it was like -18 degrees. So so it puts a new perspective on things. It was lovely. It's like an experience never to forget.
Yeah, thanks to the fantastically busy ATAR you got, right?
I'm so lucky to indeed. Yeah. But not just that you can't go on exchange. There's so many different pathways you can go on exchange for. This Global Scholars Award is open to anybody who has a good uni study grade as well. So it's not exclusive that you have to somehow do perfectly well in VC. There are so many chances to go on exchange. So enjoy uni life as much as you could.
Yeah. So building up on that, so how did you guys? What was the average day of your student life or study day? Can you tell us more?
Okay, so I feel like the average, let's say the average week would be, let's say you go into uni around 2 to 4 hours a day for classes. excluding your self-study time in the library, depending on how many days you schedule throughout the week. So for me, I wanted to head into uni around 4 days a week this semester. And that was because I just wanted to get into the library to study and to also use the gym after classes.
Yeah.
And yeah, expect to wake up sort of later than you would in high school. And I think that's a very good bonus. I know I say to my students, I don't know how they wake up at 7 o'clock every single day, 5 days a week,
Yeah.
and go to classes for 6 hours every single day. That's just, I don't know, props to them for what they're doing too right now. And yeah, another point is just you're gonna find yourself spending more time in the library, just studying a lot more. And yeah, that's
Yeah, I know sometimes in uni library you have to book your place. Do you have to book?
yeah. So for quiet study rooms,
Oh yeah, quiet study.
you'd have to book, but normally at Monash, I think it's pretty good. We've got like 4 libraries.
4 libraries in
Yeah,
Monash.
yeah, and
Plenty
also
spaces.
yeah, plenty of space, plenty of
Okay.
space. So if you just want to find a quiet spot to study, put some headphones in,
Yeah.
you'll get your study done. So
Right. Thank you, Jerry. How about you?
Yeah, I guess the honors offered a perspective of undergrad students. Maybe I'll comment from the idea of a master's student. So very different because I actually been to university twice this entire year. And by the way, today's my final day of this academic period because I'm full-time at the Austin Clinical School, which is affiliated with the University of Melbourne. So basically, I'm essentially an unpaid medical staff clinician who just observes everything, tries to learn as much as he could without any of the overlying responsibilities. So my typical day will mean a very early wake up, possibly, maybe depends on what rotation. For example, some days maybe waking up 5 to go to hospital for like a really early ward round, and after that, basically revolves around being early, getting confused, learning things, embarrassing yourself, introducing yourself to different random people, talking to people, examining people, and lots of caffeine. So that's essentially what uni life as a medical student is like. But I mean, but part of it though is exhilarating because the people you interact with, the clinicians will teach you, the nurses will help you out, the patients will thank you, even though you should be really thanking them because they're giving their time for you to learn. These are the people who remind you why you're stepping into medicine in the first place. So it's a really gratifying and rewarding experience.
Right. So you would you say being a biomedicine student, you have much more workload than the other students, or you would say about the same?
I don't think I could comment on my other courses.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's still uni. The courses are going to be probably more difficult than high school, and you're going to have to put much more work into going through uni. And just to put it into perspective, we have 4 units per semester, so semester is 12 weeks for me, and that would be the equivalent of a whole year of VCE, maybe like year 12. So that's sort of the perspective of how much work.
One semester equals 1 VCE.
Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah.
Okay, right. This is the amount of workload medicine students will expect, right? Yeah, I know you guys both worked really hard and did really well in your exams. Can you guys give some study tips for the audience here? So many students are really keen to know how did you, for example, how did you stay focused while studying? Asked by Sharon, and then how to make better results, asked from Jessica. And also we got Alana, who asked how to prepare for near perfect score from year 8 or 9. Can you guys share some of your wisdom, starting from Yong?
Okay.
Yeah.
So just based on what I did this semester, I feel like I did really improve how I study just in uni compared to year 12. And I think it's attributed to maybe 2 or 3 main things. And the first one would be to plan out extensively everything that you have to do. And what I mean by that is in detail within every single subject, what specific exercise, what notes you have to take, all onto maybe like a diary or a journal, and then within the week on specific days, you'd split that work up evenly throughout the week. And that allows you to know exactly what you have to do when you get home from school, and also sort of keep yourself on track and pace yourself so you don't sort of burn out maybe in the middle of the week if you're working too hard. And I think the second thing would be to remove a lot of distractions from your study space and creating a study space that induces sort of very, very good productivity, right? And some way you could do that is to, of course, put your phone away, maybe give it to your parents, put it in another room, and maybe have like a good study routine. I like myself personally to have a cup of green tea before I study. It just gets me into the mood, and just make sure it's sort of a very, very quiet environment, and sort of no distractions. You have a clear table, and you're just working as hard as you can.
Yeah, so first detailed planning, second study area, and cut off all the distraction.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, one more thing I want to mention, taking breaks is also very, very important. And I go as far as scheduling study breaks within my study sessions.
Yeah.
So that just keeps you sort of pacing yourself, and again, not working yourself too hard.
Anything to add, Jerry, or what's
Well,
your
I
take
think
on that?
John has pretty much covered every gem there is about study tips. Maybe I don't think I can out hack him in terms of study strategies, but maybe just elaborate a little more, like just on the idea of a healthy study and life balance. I think it's often overlooked. Somehow people have this conception that you have to be studying 24/7. You have to be always be thinking about your studies in order to do really well. But at the same time, you got to have a social life. You got to have a sporting. You're going to have doing things you enjoy. Because at the end of the day, why you got to remind yourself, why do you study? Right? You study for the end purpose of being able to do something with your life. If you don't know what to do with your life, then what's the point of studying? So I think it's important to find that balance and try to focus, like Jon said, when you're studying, but also remember that you deserve to have a break. Do things that you enjoy, treat yourself every now and then, hang out with friends if you need to. These are things that really help to motivate us as well. So yeah, that's all I want to add, I guess.
Yeah, thank you both so much. Going back a little bit. So for these year 8, 9 students, they are thinking about how do they choose BC subjects in the coming years. Do you have some general advice for them? It doesn't have to be like what's necessary for medicine, but how would you make your how would you suggest a student to make their BC choices? John, shall we start?
Okay, so I think first, the main thing for maybe medicine and for biomedical science, I can comment from is the first thing you'd be looking at is prerequisites. So I know for Monash, you'd need to do chemistry and methods to get into the course. I mean, not sort of incredibly well, but I'd say sort of an average score, maybe I think it was around 30 or 25 for English as well, would get you into the course. And then the second step would be, honestly, if you're in year 8, year 9, it would be finding what you're interested in. And I think if you were to choose between a subject that you think you'll do well compared to a subject that you're interested in, then you'd pick the subject that you're interested in every day of the week. That's just from my opinion. Because if you're interested in a subject, if you're interested in something, you have the intrinsic motivation to go towards doing well at the subject. And I feel like that's what's needed to keep you going throughout the tough SACs that you're going to be going through, the amount of content that you're going to be covering throughout the year. And yeah, that's just a very, very good foundation for you to set early on.
So your interest goes first.
Yeah.
Jerry, do you have anything?
Can't agree with you more on that note. Definitely choose something you enjoy. And I think to elaborate on that, it's all, I think, especially with year 7, year 8, year 9, the world is literally your oyster. So do things you enjoy. Don't shuttle yourself into thinking, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a dentist, I'm going to be an engineer. try to diversify, do as many different subjects as you can. Try things out if you're not sure about them, because speaking from a postgrad med perspective, coming from uni now, there are no prerequisites whatsoever to the subjects. Particularly for this year's first year med students, so a lot of them have actually come from like an arts background, from like there were singers, or like people who went through like dance, or like people who went through commerce and decided, it's not my cup of tea, I'm going to do medicine. So really it's about you keeping yourself interested in medicine, staying keen, and just working yourself towards that end goal essentially. So try to have as broad experience as you can.
Thank you. So now we're going to the course you're doing. Can you tell us more about the name of your degree and your suggestion about how does a student choose a uni degree? Shall we start from?
So yeah, again, I'm doing Bachelor of Biomedical Science at Monash, and sort of how to choose your uni degree, I think depends on sort of where you want to see yourself in the future. And I know I mentioned that biomed sort of is acting like a bridging course into med for me. But I feel like this is sort of just a special case, because for maybe other courses such as commerce, computer science, engineering, you really do need to sort of choose it based on what you want to be in the future. And I mean, it's a degree. Like after the degree, you're going to be able to find a job. You're going to be sort of employed into the workforce. And just based on sort of what you want to be in the future. That's how you sort of choose.
So why do you choose med? Why would you want to be a doctor?
So yeah, honestly, before I think around year 10, year 11, I sort of just, as a little boy, I just wanted to make as much money as possible.
Okay.
Right. And I think something sparked within me around that time where I really just wanted to make a positive impact on the world. Right. And what better way to do it than helping people sort of become better in their illness or in times of need. And I feel like, just being a doctor is a very, very good way for me to give back to the world and sort of make a positive impact on everyone that I meet.
Okay, thank you. Jerry, why did you choose math as your?
Great question, definitely. So I think very similar to Jan, or I guess similar to everyone in the audience here who wants to pursue a career in medical sciences, that we all are good people who want to help people. Right? And I think for me, being a doctor is such a privileged position. I mean, you don't walk into any day interaction with people where you get to find out every single bit about their lives, but that's practically what a good doctor is able to do, is that they're able to establish such a strong emotional and social rapport with the patients, and the patients seriously, emotionally, spiritually trust them to the extent that they're able to really let them know about everything, so then the doctor can make a really good diagnosis and really good treatment plan. So it's that sort of privileged position that's fascinating to me. And, in addition to, of course, on top of what Jan was saying about being able to help people, making the most impact through your daily work, I think that's the most rewarding aspect of medicine, is that knowing that degree, that that aspect of respect, this aspect of people, really looking up to you, but also you being in a privileged position to help people as well. So yeah.
Being a doctor is a great way to reciprocate with the society of what you have received, I think. The next one will be, can you tell us about the VC prerequisites for medicine, and what do you know about the entry requirement? For example, ATAR, what exactly score you get can guarantee you a position in medicine?
Okay, so I think I'll comment on undergrad medicine for this one. Just going aside from my degree. So for medicine, there actually isn't any prerequisites to get for undergrad medicine at Monash. But they consider three things throughout your year 12. So your UCAT, you do in the middle of the year, your ATAR, and then your interview at the end. So the selection process is, before you get your interview, they base the selection of your ATAR score and your UCAT. And from then on, it's sort of 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So waiting on each. And then from there, they give you the offer or not. And yeah, so basically just the UCAT. And for ATAR requirements, for Monash, if I had to guess, I think it would be at the minimum, a high 97 would be sort of the minimum, I think. And that's just based off of what the median ATAR for Monash Medicine this year was, which was 99.55 for the whole cohort. So yeah.
Undergrad math.
Yeah, undergrad math.
Yes. Do you know any of these scholarship options out there for Monash Medicine or biomed?
Yeah, so I think if you sort of perform well in your VCE, there are scholarships that sort of provide you with, I think, $3,000 a semester. But you sort of have to, I think that applies to the whole of Monash, not just Monash Medicine. And I think the other scholarship would, of course, be the John Monash Scholarship, which would be if you get a 99.9 or above. So yeah, those are the two I'm aware of.
Right. Jerry, can you comment from the Uni of Melbourne perspective? What are the scholarships you know about, or any VCE subjects towards the vet degree?
Yeah, I think so in terms of scholarships, it's very, very similar. I think the Melbourne equivalent one of the John Monash Scholars is the Chancellor Scholarship. So it's a $6,000 per semester stipend plus a full fee exemption, and as well as a guaranteed pathway to a postgrad of your choice. But of course, with medicine, slightly different, but you still have to pass an interview as well as do sufficiently well for undergrad studies. In terms of prerequisites, I actually don't think there are any. So like similarly, no prerequisites for medicine, but I think for undergrad, for biomed, which is what I did as well, I think similar things about chemistry and English as well. But in terms, I actually did a little bit of research because it's such a long time away. But for this year, for the year 2022, the biomed selection threshold was set to be 95. And after taking into account of all the equity adjustments and everything, it was actually at 67.8.
Oh, wow.
So, it's a huge difference. I'm not saying, you should settle for a 67.8 because that will, obviously lots of things would have been taken into consideration. But what we're saying here is that, ATAR is not the most important thing. Plus, at the end of the day, also, you'll have so many different pathways into graduate medicine. You could be pursuing a completely different undergrad that's unrelated to biomed or medicine at all. So, yeah, I think that's right. So, in terms of choosing the prerequisites and scholarships, obviously aim as high as you can for your ATAR, but don't be absolutely despondent if you don't achieve what you wanted. Don't set yourself too high of a goal. It will hurt when you don't get there.
Right. Thanks. We've got a question from Vicky. She asked, if I'm not good at biology, does medicine suit me?
So yeah, I'd say, just commenting from a biomed perspective, it does help a lot during first year, just from my perspective, but it isn't the end of the world if you're not sort of good at biology. And I think the main thing is, if you're interested in it, then that's the most important thing, because if you're interested in it, you'll put more effort into it, and the more effort you put into it, the better you'll get at it. And so yeah, if the concepts are sort of hard to grasp, which they are with like molecular biology and sort of neurobiology, that stuff that I'm sort of doing right now, it's not necessarily sort of crucial to have that fundamental ability, but it's just, if you're willing to put the effort and the time into it, then it is rewarding at the end, and you will get a good result. So, yeah.
Right. Anything to add, Jerry?
Yeah, I think Yong's covered most things. So definitely I agree with Yong saying it's helpful, but it's not a deal breaker. So I think also maybe the other aspect we're going to take into consideration of is that VC biology is not biology really, because VC biology is very dry rote learning. You're looking at concepts from 50 years ago, from this Gregorian monk called, what's his name, Mendel, right? And, at the end of the day, these are not the things we study anymore. These are so out of date, and somehow, so really, interest and passion for biology is the main thing, because at the end of the day, once you head into medicine, there are so many fields that don't really require any of that kind of pedagogical or didactic biological knowledge. It's about you being passionate, wanting to find out, wanting to stay up to date, and also, being a good person, being able to interact with your patients and everything. So if the career is what you enjoy, is the aspect of being able to have a really close interaction with people, why not have a go, especially in year 10, you have like work experience or not coming up. Definitely suss out those opportunities to see if it's the right field for you.
Yeah, so would you say that BC biology is helpful for uni, but you're gonna learn biology all of it again from uni?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. I mean, I think Yom can comment likewise. Literally, for me, my experience in first year undergrad, which will be like 6 years ago now, essentially your first semester covers everything, 1, 2, 3, 4 of biology, and that's only one subject. So essentially, you're spending, like 1/8 of a year looking at everything you would have studied in VC biology, and that's it. So it's minuscule compared to the amount you actually will learn. So yeah, definitely not a deal breaker.
I see. Thank you. The next one is actually about what do you study in uni, like what subjects, and what are your favorite and least favorite subjects in biomed or medicine, and also about what is the hardest thing about studying medicine?
Okay, so yeah, I'll first comment on the biomed sort of course now. So it honestly ranges a lot, the stuff you cover. And last semester, even though it's called biomedicine, I covered a subject called medical biophysics, and it's got a biology fundamentals, but it's really a lot of formulas and applying those formulas and understanding actual physics behind it. I think I went through like fluid mechanics and stuff like that, which is completely unrelated to sort of biology. But you've also got the main stuff with molecular biology. You've got neurobiology, which is talking about like the nervous system and the brain and stuff. But you've also got other more specialized subjects. What I did this semester was public health and preventative medicine, and that one was split into 2 parts. This was my favorite subject, by the way. Split into biostatistics and epidemiology, and I really liked biostatistics just because they teach you how to analyze data. That's and analysis techniques that are sort of universally used in medical papers. And after you get it, you begin to understand like the significance of sort of experiments and sort of what it implies, and yeah, it's just very interesting to me.
Right. So biostatistics, is that some maths related as well?
Yeah, a little bit, but a lot of it is just based. You put the data into a computer, press a few buttons, and you get
that's
the
interesting.
stuff out.
What's your least favorite subject? What do you find the hardest in bio?
I'd say it'd be biochemistry. I took it last semester. It was compulsory, but there was just a lot of content. So I'm not sure if you guys know the whole like cellular respiration pathway, but we had to know it in complete detail with all the steps.
So
and it was
many
too
things
much.
you have to learn that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Too much.
Right. How about you, Jerry?
Yeah, totally relate. So definitely, let's get the bad stuff out of the way. Definitely biochem, leaves the way down.
Okay.
Just so much dry rote learning. You have to memorize so much things. It was just completely different to what I normally say to people. My students know that I love biology, love chemistry. But when we combine biochem and put it into uni context, and everything's about learn this. It's like this stack of material, and then next year, do you need it? Oh, no, you don't. So, very irrelevant content. So I think, as you progress through uni, for the undergrad, you start to gradually become more niche and more specialized. So like in first year, you learn the general principles, and then later on, you learn a lot of really cool frontier research stuff. and really, whatever area piques your interest, you're able to find a subject which kind of tailors towards that area. For example, for my major, I did physiology, so I did a lot of physiology-related subjects, and they were really cool. They were on the frontier of like research and everything. But then once you get into postgrad med, everything seems to do a 180 where you started generalizing it. You start to look at, your purely clinical sciences. You're looking at what are the current research, what's the current evidence for doing things. And, stepping into this year and from this point onwards, it's all clinical skills. It's really just about how do you manage a patient? How do you, how do you chart the drugs? How do you work as a doctor, essentially? So really, uni at the end of the day is to prepare you for your future profession. But biomed at undergrad is really there to expose you to a whole world of knowledge. Hopefully they will diversify and do something different. So like you're saying, public health could be something. You see a public health position in the making maybe here.
Yeah.
These are things that are designed to pique your interest, and hopefully you go down the path that is right for you.
Right, thank you. So I think you answered the question about least favorite. What are the challenges in medicine? Just say your challenges is that the biochemistry subject.
Yeah, I think it's just subjects that maybe you're not very interested in, or maybe it's a bit more content heavy and you're just remembering stuff, and maybe it's not relevant to the stuff you really want to learn. And just because of these subjects, it just makes it sort of more dry. But it's sort of the process you have to go through to get to where you want to go. So,
yeah. Jerry, would you say your challenge is that?
Yeah, I guess so. Although, thank goodness, I'm not doing as much biochemistry now this year. But like I think a lot of it's all, for me, a lot of the challenge with uni studying in general is this idea that if there's a content that I know will be irrelevant for my future, my brain tends to zone out. So I don't want to remember this. Whereas something that's really interesting that I know I'll probably need to know, retain its knowledge, that stuff I'm really interested in. I'll keep on learning and keep finding out more. So I think the main challenge is still trying to contextualize why that is important for you at that point in time and why you still need to study at 40 exam, right? So I think that's probably the biggest challenge.
Right. Thank you. So up to now, do you have questions for each other? Because Jerry is from Melbourne and Yong's from Monash, and Jerry is a med school student already in doing his postgraduate, and Yong is still a first year uni student. Do you want to ask any questions to each other?
Yeah, I actually had one question.
Yeah.
Like at what point during the med school sort of course do you start doing clinical stuff compared to learning content?
Yeah, so good question, because for me, I'm actually the last year of the previous batch where we start from the second year out of the 4-year degree onwards, where you do pure clinical. But I think with this year's Melbourne's course, starting from this year, or the first year, so from the beginning of the medicine, they do pretty much a lot of clinical work already. So they have like every fortnight they have a GP rotation. Every month they've got a hospital shift where they come and learn clinical skills on real patients. So it's definitely moving towards an era where we're placing more emphasis on clinical orientation, getting to know patients, how to deal with them, how to manage them. So so definitely a lot more hands-on as you progress through. But yeah, I guess I don't know. For Yong, why biomed? Why not anything else?
Yeah, like I said at the start, I think it was just more because of the guarantee into postgrad.
The 10%.
Yeah, the 10%. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And I don't know. I think science was also an option, but I think it's more like pure science, maybe focusing on like more like the physics side, which I'm interested in, but it doesn't relate to what I want to do in the future. So yeah.
Fair enough.
So, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm convinced.
Thank you both. So the next one is, if I'm year 7, 8, or 9 students, what can I do to prepare for me to go into a medical degree or med school? What's your suggestion, or what you wish you had? Wish you'd done?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think as year 7, year 8,
Yeah.
it's more so finding out your interest and if you actually want to do medicine or not. Because for the longest time, I wanted to become a lawyer. right? Because I thought, okay, a lawyer, I make a lot of money. But by around the same time I made the switch to wanting to do medicine, I actually found out what lawyers do, and I found it pretty boring in my opinion. And not saying that practicing law is boring, but it's just didn't align with what I was interested in.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the main thing is really finding out what you want to do in the future and what you want to be, right? And finding out your interests, your passions, and not solely driven on monetary or maybe your parents want you to be something. So yeah.
Yeah. Jerry, do you have any suggestions for this student?
Yeah, I think exactly the same sentiment I'm going to echo. Is to keep your options open. Find out what you're passionate about, right? So the last thing you really want is to shut yourself in thinking you're going to go down a path of becoming a doctor. Otherwise it's going to be a pity to a family member. Never, right? So you've got so many things out there you could do. So broaden your perspective. And also I think it's important for us to realize maybe coming from two perspectives. Number one is that if your idea of doing medicine is that you want to get rich, then stop that thought right now. I can guarantee you all of my friends who are in a field other than medicine probably has an extra zero at the end of a bank account at the moment compared to me. Second is that to be a good doctor, what you want is for you to be, first of all, a good person. You want to be approachable, you want to be sociable. If you want to establish a good rapport with your patients, so they trust you, want to come back and see you, and for you to provide a really excellent management plan, then you're going to learn how to chit chat with any random bloke off the street, right? If you don't know about the recent AFL score or how the cricket's going, then I don't think you're quite there yet. So definitely, keep being interested in people as well. That's important too.
Yeah, great discussion. I think the takeaway point from this is that don't just looking at the VC subjects you need to do to get into med, but thinking further and then have a longer long-term way of thinking about what's your passion actually, what your passion actually is, right? And then now we're going to, for the year 10s, year 11s who are already devoting themselves in the medicine application path. So they have to do UCAT and they have to prepare for the interview, right? So any UCAT related tips for them? For example, Lean asked, when should the UCAT be started to prepare? What are included in test? Also, Sifong and Vivian asked how to prepare for UCAT or GAMSET, like generally. Yong?
Okay, yeah. So for the UCAT, it's done in your last year of schooling, so year 12. And basically what it is, it's an aptitude test to test if you basically have the ability of sort of going through the content of med school. And it's split into 5 sections. So you've got verbal reasoning, which is basically very, very fast reading comprehension. They give you a slab of text and then they ask you a question. You have to try to find it in the text. And then the second one is numerical reasoning. Numerical reasoning, in my opinion, is basically just like year 10 maths. Or not even year 10 maths, like year 8 maths.
Okay.
But the main thing is you have to do it really, really fast. And so that's like an overarching theme of the UK is you have to just smash out questions really, really quickly. And so the third one would be decision making. And decision making consists of like 10 different subsections within decision making. And it's, for example, it's like they tell you like a prompt is like, this train came first before train B, train B came after train C. Okay. Those sort of questions where you have to like draw out a diagram and stuff like that. And then you've got abstract reasoning. Abstract reasoning is sort of, you have to find, they give you 2 sets of like shapes or whatever, abstract shapes, and you have to find a pattern within the shapes. And they give you a prompt, it's like, oh, well, where does this sort of section fit into, like set 1 or set 2? And so, yeah, honestly, if the UCAT was extended for maybe an hour or double the time, everyone would perform well at it. But it's because of that time constraint, right? I remember for numerical reasoning, it was, if I remember correctly, 20 seconds to do each question. And so, yeah, it's just very, very time
pressure.
Yeah, time pressure. And to comment on the second part of the question, when to start studying for the UCAT.
Yeah.
I feel like after Christmas of year 11 would be the optimal time to get started. And I feel like utilizing that summer holiday, so from December to start of February, would be the best time to get your UCAT started already, because the UCAT is taken in the middle of the year, not at the end of the year. Like
before your ABC.
Yeah. So if you're able to get your UCAT started early in the summer holidays, then it takes pressure off your schooling as well, because you're doing year 12 at the same time as your UCAT. And if you were to delay your UCAT prep, you'd not only take away from the time you have for school, but you'd also not have enough time to prepare for the UCAT. So starting early would be the best way. And I wouldn't say starting as early as year 10. That's a bit too early.
Okay.
So end of year 11 would be my
end of year 11 start preparing for UCAT. Okay. Thank you. How about you, Jerry? Did you do UCAT?
Oh, actually no, because I was living in the Stone Age, or when it was still called a UMAT. So so I think on that question, I will contextualize it. So I think I want to split into two. So first, if you say you want to go down a path of undergraduate medicine, then absolutely get your stuff together and study well for UCAT, because that's literally the first hurdle if you want to get in. Because you don't have a good enough UCAT score, they don't even care about what your ATAR is. Your UCAT is your first hurdle, so make sure you do really, really well. So like you're probably the best person to ask about what's needed for UCAT preparation, because I did shockingly terribly for my UMAT or UCAT thereof, which is also why I'm in postgrad med. Not that, but also I think on the second context, I think postgrad med is actually a serendipitously good idea, because it just offers you a much more mature and also opportunity-driven pathway. Without a doubt, you have 3 years extra in terms of age and maturity on top of the undergrad med students, but also that time gives you so much time to explore what adult life can entail, right? So that means going to parties, enjoying life, you go on an exchange, studying a completely different course, doing different breadth subjects that are unrelated to medicine. These are all different things that you could do that you wouldn't be able to have a chance to if, say, you were shuffled into the kind of undergrad med system. So, there are pros and cons. If you're dead set on becoming a medical doctor and that's the right path for you, and you've done really, really well for UCAT, go for it. You're mature enough, go for it. But you feel like, like me, probably not mature enough to really go down, be a serious doctor, probably never going to be a serious doctor, but, always give yourself a bit of a chance, do things that you enjoy, give yourself the opportunity to explore the world.
Yeah, I think most of the doctors in Australia, they don't do medicine at undergrad level, right? They only enter the postgraduate medicine, right?
Yeah, so right now in Victoria, only Monash is offering the undergrad system. So the current doctors is still a lot who've gone through the undergrad med system, but definitely you see more and more junior doctors going through only the Monash med cohort. It's only something like 200 people a year compared to, say, all the different postgrad systems, whether it be UML, University of Queensland, University of New South Wales, actually New South Wales offers undergrad as well, but University, for example, all the other ones are going through the postgrad system.
The GAMSET.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for the GAMSET? Is that a huge difference between UCAT and GAMSET, or?
Unfortunately, I didn't do the GAMSET, but from what I've searched, the GAMSET takes a lot more grit than just a UCAT, because it is a really long exam. Actually, UCAT is really long as well, but because with the GAMSET, you get multiple opportunities, so everyone wants to do really incredibly well. So from what I know is that most people prepare from the very beginning of undergrad, and they do the exam, once in second year and then second time in third year to pick out the best score for the application. So it's a really intensive process. That's also extremely costly, something like $500 for one exam. So it's something that people don't take with really light heart. You're going to go in knowing that you want to do medicine and do really well and study really hard for the GAMSET. So unfortunately, I can't give you any advice on that note, but the GAMSAT is definitely a very intense application process.
Yeah, John, have you looked into the GAMSAT? Because
Yeah,
like, I'm sorry to say that, but if you didn't get to the top 10, you have to go through the
yeah,
GAMSAT,
I would
right?
have to.
Yeah,
So yeah, a lot of it is sort of self-driven, unless you maybe get like a course or something.
Mm,
But I do think that some prep that I've been doing throughout the semester
yeah,
is reading.
reading.
And I think that really helps with the section. Again, I think it was reading comprehension again.
in
I
GAMSAT.
forgot what the exact name was.
Mhm.
But yeah, just trying to do as much as you can in the background of your sort of uni studies throughout the semester is important. And also again, the same sort of theme as the UCAT.
Mhm.
I have 4 months until the start of next year. And so I'm going to be using these 4 months to study for the GAMSAT.
Okay.
So yeah, hopefully all goes well.
Yeah.
I plan to do it 2 or 3 times. So not the one in March, but the one in I think September, October.
How many GAMSAT are there in a year?
There's 2. There's 2.
Two in
Yeah.
a year. Okay.
Yeah.
2 times. Is that any questions? Okay, right. We can go to question in the chat first of all. A Q&A, sorry. We got 4 questions in the Q&A session. The first one is from Claudia. She has a question for Jerry. Extension program in Monash, is this still offering? She couldn't get any info. So that was 5-6 years ago, right?
Yeah, so that was still in 2017. They still offered it. I'm not sure, maybe coming under a different name. So something like, maybe just if you can type like chemistry for year 12 students, Monash, maybe type those keywords into Google, you might find something. But it is likely they might have pulled the program off what is being offered. But yeah, sorry, I'm not the most up to date on that note.
Yeah, no worries. Next one from Claudia as well. A question for Jerry. What exactly pathway you took? Jerry did explain some exchange program and lateral. What field you did for your bachelor? Did you complete your bachelor in lateral, then now in the Doctor of Medicine in Uni of Melbourne? Is that right? Do you find hard to get into Melbourne Uni's Doctor of Medicine? I think Jerry got into the scholarship of Melbourne Uni, right? Chancellor's scholarship. So
yeah, sorry for the confusion, Claudia. So I was fortunate enough to get a Chancellor scholarship at Melbourne Uni. So I did my bachelor's biomedicine at Melbourne Uni, and then because of a guaranteed pathway, I went straight into the Doctor of Medicine program at Melbourne Uni as well. So I guess a very unadventurous pathway. Sorry to break it to you, but yeah, I did go on. Maybe my adventure was going to Montreal for exchange. So that was in Canada. So I went to McGill University over there. It's a very French Canadian university. But yeah, that's a really good, cool experience. Definitely highly recommend going on exchange if you have the chance. But yeah, hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah. So not La Trobe, but Montreal in Canada.
Probably that's.
Yeah, sorry. So the next question is from Janet. Does VC biology really help? I think we also did touch upon that in our chat. So Janet, do you want to explain again?
Yeah, it helps to a certain extent. I don't know beyond first year biomed, but it really did help sort of with the foundations. Because like Jerry said, a lot of the stuff we do in first year is repeating the biology course in BC. And so I guess it helps you get higher grades, I guess, throughout the semester. So,
yeah. Right, thank you. Another question from Sean. What kind of SAT and exam scores do you need to achieve an 8 out of 99?
I think with that question, it's going to be really school dependent.
Yeah,
SATs being a school assessment, right? So, for example, I can comment from my high school. I knew that apparently for my high school, when we did specialist maths, because my high school has such a strong cohort in maths in general, even if you were bottom ranked in SACs for specialist maths, you'll still be automatically graded to a full mark for SACs once the scaling comes into place. So really depends on what subject, what school you go to. It's going to play a huge variance. So it's really hard to answer that question, unfortunately. Sorry.
Yeah, it's very hard to answer that. Depends on your schools. The next one is, are you aware of any alternative pathways such as Diploma of Science to get UniMel Bachelor of Biomed? And is that a good idea? Alternative pathways, for example, Diploma of Science.
Okay.
Any knowledge?
I'm not quite sure about diploma of science per se. I think it's a very separate thing to the concept of a bachelor. So usually what people do is that they finish high school and they'll get into a bachelor program. So that's what we technically know as an undergrad program. And getting a diploma is kind of like the icing on top. You can get a diploma, say, in French, you can get a diploma in something else, right?
Yeah.
But, I think maybe to answer that question properly, you don't feel like you have to get into the bachelor degree of your dreams first up. I know so many of my friends back in first year, they were able to successfully transfer into their dream bachelor program by showing that they have sufficient grade during the first semester of study, and they were able to transfer into, say, from a Bachelor of Arts into a Bachelor of Commerce, for example. So it's definitely possible. ATAR is important. It's nice to have a really good ATAR, but it's not the end of the world if you don't.
Yeah, that's a key takeaway point from tonight. For another question from Sarah, I just wanted to ask Jerry about experience with research. I've just finished my year 12 exams and have applied for UniMel Biomed, and research is something I'm really interested in and considering as a postgrad pathway, but I'm just not sure what a career in research could look like. Yes, Sarah, we did include your question in our next slot about potential careers and paths, but great, you can
sure. First of all, I'm so happy, Sarah, that you're interested in research, because I think it is definitely an often overlooked area. We all need academia, right? So, academia is really the way how we have to progress modern science, staying up to date, making sure that we are actually providing for generations to come, right? So, to answer the question, so in terms of research pathways, generally speaking, people will finish their bachelor's program. Maybe during the middle, as you're doing your bachelor's, you'll concurrently do some research alongside, as will we say an honorary researcher or a volunteer researcher, essentially. Sometimes you can be really lucky if you're proving your worth and get like a paid position as well. And then what happens after you want to pursue research? Generally, people do an honours year. So an honours year is basically you're doing a full research year, and you have a chosen project for an entire year, you work on it. And after that, people, generally speaking, just get into a PhD program. And then, unfortunately, in Australia, if you want to do research, have your own project per se, you got to be a PhD to do anything. If you graduate with a undergrad degree like a Bachelor of Biomed, unfortunately, you can't do any research. Yeah.
Right. So PhD before research. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I will follow up. Just continue with the questions list here in my hand. So continue from the medicine application tip. We just talked about how do you actually prepare for the interview, because interview is a part of applying to the medicine undergrad degree. And also, do you need to do voluntary service to get into med school? Ask from Civil. Yong, do you want to answer this?
Okay, so based on my personal experience, in the med interview, they'll ask you sort of a few scenarios and then they tell you the scenario, and then they sort of ask you a question based on it. And I think the most important thing is expressing your sort of the traits that they're looking for. So I'm talking about like empathy, sort of good communication, teamwork, advocacy, stuff like that, right, in your responses. And that's done through something I did was like content creation, which is where I basically like defined what these sort of traits were, these personality traits, what they do, and sort of an example of something that I did in my life that sort of reflects this thing. And through that, you're able to incorporate these traits into your answers. And then that's what the interviewers are looking for. they want to find these traits based on your answers. And yeah.
Okay, so it's not medicine related straight.
Yeah, it's really you don't really have to have any medical knowledge
Right.
for the interview.
Okay.
And on that second point with the voluntary work,
Yeah.
it's not compulsory, but it is very encouraged, because like if you want to be a doctor, you want to help people, right?
Yeah.
And doing that voluntary work will allow you to develop these genuine traits that you're able to tell the interviewer, and they'll know if it's genuine or not. It's based on sort of what you're saying.
Yeah, that's important. Jerry, I remember you mentioned about the year 10 work experience. So did you do any of that relating to medicine, or can you share about your
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share.
volunteer service? Yeah.
So yeah, I talk about the year 10 work experience and then talk about volunteering.
Yeah.
So year 10 work experience, I actually did mine at Peter Mac Cancer Research. So I did it with the research department, still at the really old campus. It was really dark. In fact, I had, an interesting but not a great, not on behalf of Peter Mac, but rather kind of my personal takeaway. I didn't really enjoy my work experience that much, and actually really put me off research, to be frank. So I was dead set, never going to become a researcher, because the first guy we met on the very first day in a group of 3 is telling us he moved from Queensland down to here because of no jobs, no funding. He's like, oh God, it's awful, what am I doing? So, but, somehow, weirdly enough, I fell in love with research again. So that's about working year 10 work experience. Try to find out as early as you can in terms of what programs are on offer, especially now it's kind of post-COVID now, so more hospital programs are opening back up. I know during COVID, we were really frustrated that hospitals are not really offering any placement for like a high school student because COVID restrictions and everything.
Yeah.
On the second of volunteering, so I'm still a volunteer at the Royal Children's Hospital, and actually even when I went to Montreal, I also volunteered at the Montreal Children's Hospital as well. So I just think I love volunteering. Just such an interesting, it gives you really different perspectives. Even right now, as a medical student, sure, I have so much exposure to the system anyway, but being on the other side, being with the family in the waiting room, seeing kids or seeing families being distressed, or being able to help them out, like giving them a cup of tea or like a biscuit or something, it just really helps you to develop and hone that kind of empathy, like you're almost saying, so important, right? So I guess tying that with in terms of the medical interviews and whatnot, these are the traits that the examiners, the interviewers are looking for, is that you're someone who's empathetic, you're someone who's able to relate with someone else, and you're someone who can actually provide the best care for your patients in the future.
Yeah, I think for the interviews, what you have to do is to show that you are a good person. You are sociable and nice, and you have empathy towards others, right?
Yeah, you work well in a team.
Yeah,
also, actually, to test bizarre things as well. Like for this year, we had a spotter where we had to have like finding differences, kind of almost like finding Wall-E essentially. And essentially now trying to contextualize it, it's trying to test you whether or not you're a good radiologist. Are you good at interpreting a chest X-ray? Like looking, okay, there are some weird findings in there, but they can be really interesting, just put it that way.
Right, that's really funny. And our next lot of question is about potential career path and opportunities, and we did answer Sarah's great question about research. And so many people think doing med school means you're becoming a doctor in the future. So do you guys have any other thoughts about your career? For example, I know you want to be a doctor, but do your classmates or your peers, they have different thoughts?
I don't know. I feel like for me and all my sort of study groups, we're all just working towards the same goal of going into medicine. So I haven't really sort of had a thought about
other careers
outside of medicine yet. So I think the first step, get into medicine for me. And then I can think about sort of where I want to go after school. So yeah.
Right, Jerry, do you have?
Yeah, I think I want to dispel this myth that somehow medicine is about like a funnel, making it into a model perfect doctor. No, it's not. In fact, increasingly, especially that's what uni wants as well. So we want to see more people armed with medical knowledge, but able to go out into the world and help the world in various different dimensions. So we talked about research already. That's something that a lot of doctors end up doing. And we can talk about, public health, for example, another field that a lot of doctors are heading to make maximum impact with work. But there's also people, for example, even in my cohort, I know at least 2 people going to, public health policy advice, going to, like consulting services. So really providing government policies, informing businesses what's the best way forward, informing them from a healthcare perspective. So really there are so many paths in terms of what people can take, whether it be in medicine or post-medicine. So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of glove and stocking kind of thing. It's really about wherever your dreams take you. There's so many things that can come along the way and pique your interest. And you should pursue it when when that first spark comes to you, that you thought, that's interesting, I want to go down that path, find out about it, see if that's really the path for you. And then, don't hesitate, go for it.
Yeah, definitely keep an open mind for sure. Don't just go one way to one end towards the doctor. Maybe just find what your passion really is, right? So I think we've gone through all the questions we have. Oh, the last one is, we have one last question. So do you have any further plans on your studies, for example, master or PhD? I know Yong, you want to do med school first, and after that you wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And Jerry, you want to be a PhD in what area?
Oh, PhD, geez. Yeah, I'm not thinking about that just yet, but thank you for reminding me. But yeah, unfortunately, medicine, not unfortunately, I think it's nice to go do a bit of academia, but also there is a pressure for pretty much everyone in post-graduation to do some sort of PhD in order to become a specialist in the field. So yeah, but that's a future big problem. But definitely medicine, there's a lot of opportunities for traveling. So whether it be going rurally, going overseas for a internship, going overseas for not so much internship, for like graduate training or for like a registrar training, fellowship training. So there's certainly a lot of opportunities for like post medicine travels and explorations of the world. But yeah, that's a future big problem. Right now, I'm just hoping to pass my medical degree, graduate, and I'll think about what comes next.
Yeah, good luck on that. So Yong, do you have any overseas plans for your future studies, or?
No, not really at the moment.
Okay, Australian doctor.
Yeah.
One go.
Yeah, but I'll see where this pathway takes me. I'm not closing myself into just Australia.
Yeah.
If the opportunity presents itself, or if I want to sort of go for something else, then of course I'm open to go overseas or wherever sort of this path leads me.
Yeah, interesting. So I think we've gone through all the questions we have here, and we're gonna turn back to the chat to see if we got more questions. Not at the moment. Okay, we got a question here from George. Question for Yong: which area of medicine do you want to specialize in, and why?
Yeah, I think
Good question.
something related to surgery. I think I've always sort of been interested in surgery. I'm good with my hands. I play the piano. I don't know if that sort of correlates with being good at surgery. But yeah, it's just something that interests me, and yeah, probably something to do with surgery.
Surgery. Thank you. Do we have any more questions? Oh, it's already 8:15. Thank you everyone for staying until now. I hope you have gotten a lot from our talk tonight, and I will just give 1 more minute maybe to see if you want to send in any more questions. If not, we can call it a night, I think. Thank you so much for you and Jerry for coming, and great discussion. Yeah, we'll see. I'll just wait for 1 more minute, but if you don't have any more questions, please feel free to leave. And then our next Roach Uni will be on liberal arts and law. We're gonna invite Haley and another law students. So it will be in 3 weeks' time. If you're interested in that, please come along again. Yeah, I think that's all from us. Thank you so much again. Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed it. So see you next time.
See you guys.